What is up, guys? Wraec here with new video, and today we want to take a look at the Destiny transition skills for Blood-Tide Queen Aranea. A reason for that video now is obviously my video from yesterday, where we looked at my IDA championship fight where I won the finals, and we also looked at the fight between Quadzilla and Camilek, and Quadzilla is using a Blood-Tide Queen Aranea at Divine Power 7 in his main team. And when you look at this team, you obviously think, well, there is this huge SFX, she's going to do the most damage, maybe even that Farrakhan Vesa. And when we actually watched that fight, we were both surprised, well, both you guys and me were surprised at the result of it, because there was something quite surprising. Let's skip this battle here so we can get to see it actually. And there it is, Blood-Tide Queen Aranea, highest damage. Well, quite insane. We haven't really seen results like that before. Usually she was used in some Star Alchemist Holmes Young's teams, against some Star Alchemist Holmes Young's teams as well. And she did some reasonable amount of damage, but was mostly used for support to deal some buffs and everything. And well, that was alright. She was never really used as a damage dealer, but in my initial review, when I talked about all of the heroes the first time, I think, like I said, that she could be decent, that we had to take a look at that. So now let's take a look at the abilities. First of all, with Blood-Tide Queen Aranea, you have to understand one or two things about her skills to make sure you get the rest of it. So first of all, we have an effect called Black Kindling. Black Kindling is the main effect that activates all of her abilities. And when any enemy with Black Kindling dies, inflicts Black Kindling on 2 random enemies without Black Kindling. So that's the thing. Her skills in general work from this ability. When the battle starts, we inflict Black Kindling on 1 enemy with the lowest HP. It has no round limit, so it is inflicted for an infinite duration. When this enemy dies, it is inflicted on 2 other random enemies. So in general, to make Blood-Tide Queen Aranea effective, you really want to kill off the lowest HP enemy. Which you can do obviously by using Wraec and an Assassin, for example. And that will spread Black Kindling to other heroes, and this will in turn activate other abilities like this. When self takes damage dealt by basic attacks or active skills from enemies with Black Kindling, burns the 2 enemies with the lowest HP. So this is one of the abilities. We have a few more. On top of that, there is another effect coming from her core, and that is called Black Kindling Ash. And both Black Kindling and Black Kindling Ash are actually kind of similar. I did some testing on that, and even though her main skills, as you can see here, say only from enemies with Black Kindling and not Black Kindling Ash, it is considered Black Kindling. So Black Kindling Ash is considered Black Kindling for those abilities. We can do an easy test for that. As you saw, BQA only inflicts Black Kindling on 1 single enemy. And the core itself inflicts Black Kindling Ash on another enemy that doesn't have Black Kindling. So when we have 2 heroes in the battlefield, 1 will have Black Kindling, 1 will have Black Kindling Ash. And if I find Quadzilla, then we can actually do the test. So Quadzilla set a single BQA, activated her core. We will set 2 heroes, this Starving Jara and this Aspen. And one of those will get inflicted with Black Kindling. This will likely be the Starving Jara. The other one will be inflicted with Black Kindling Ash by the core. So, and what you will see is that whenever one of those 2 heroes attacks, BQL will launch a counterattack. And she only counterattacks when she's attacked by a hero that has Black Kindling on her. And even though this Aspen doesn't have Black Kindling on him, but will have Black Kindling Ash, she will counterattack, proving that Black Kindling Ash is considered Black Kindling for her abilities. As you can see, we've got the counterattack there, burn on both heroes, Starving Jara attacks, and again, we get the counterattack, burn on both heroes. So even though one of them, and you can't really see it by the effect, I think this is a little bit darker, quite hard to say. Even though you can't really see it, we now know Black Kindling Ash activates her abilities, which is important to know for her transition skills. So the main difference in between those 2 skills is only that Black Kindling Ash doesn't spread to other enemies when you kill the opponent, and it can have a duration of a set amount of rounds. So at this point, also thank you to Quadzilla for making it possible to test against this Divine Power 7 BQA and making sure that it works in the way that I described. So back to the skills. now, or is she actually? There she is. Now we've understood that. There is a third effect that we have to know, and this is Scorching Curse. Scorching Curse is an interesting skill effect. When this is inflicted on an enemy, every time they take damage, they take extra 300% of attack damage, and this caps at 3000% of Blood-Tide Queen Arenea's attack. So when we can stack multiple layers of this on an enemy, and the more layers we have, the more extra damage they will basically take whenever they are hit. So to the skills, we once again have a skill that triggers when an ally's active skill successfully hits the target. In general, this is quite good. This is what we want to see. It is great for situations like Flameshine, for example, where we have a full energy feed. In general, triggering upon an active skill is seen as better as triggering from a basic skill, as we saw with MFG, for example. MFG, a hero we would have loved to see more in Flameshine, but the problem is his transition skill triggers from a basic attack, and you kind of have a hard time doing good damage with basic attacks in Flameshine. So, when an ally's active skill successfully hits the target, consumes 3 layers of transition power to do 800% attack damage to 3 random enemies and inflicts Scorching Curse for 6 rounds, cannot release the skill with without enough layers of transition power. So not too much surprising stuff here. We have a 3 layers of transition power skill, so from a single active skill we gain 6 layers of transition power, so we can trigger it twice, which is rather nice. 800% attack damage is decent, not the main part of this, and then we have we hit 3 random enemies and we inflict Scorching Curse for 6 rounds. So great source of Scorching Curse, bit of damage in there, and we hit 3 random enemies. And the main part really is we only use 3 layers of transition power. So from a single active skill, we gain enough transition power to use it twice, making this a transition skill we can use quite often. We have the regular options here, again, with the active skill for 6 layers that I would recommend. On the first skill, we see increases transition skill damage dealt by 15%. Not very convincing to me that this is good because, well, transition skill damage is likely not referring to a Scorching Curse, but only to the 800% attack damage. So we don't really see a whole lot of damage coming from this, and I wouldn't really recommend it. Then we have deals extra damage caps at 1500% of Blood-Tide Queen Arenea's attack, equal to 8% of the target's max HP. And I would say this is, well, this is a lot stronger, like insanely stronger. And then we have additionally increases the target's damage over time by 20%, and I'm still looking forward to using that together with Star Alchemist Hong Xiang and maybe MFG to see how far we can scale the damage over time effect and how exactly it works. I really haven't done a whole lot of testing on those kinds of effects, but it will be very interesting to see what we can do with an MFG, BQA, and the Star Alchemist Hong Xiang with a lot of Destiny ranks on them with this skill. If you go for damage over time, give this a shot. Otherwise, this is the best option for this slot. And, well, this is probably rather bad. Next one. Additionally, reduce the target's attack by 15% for 2 rounds. Considering we trigger this skill twice a round, this can be quite a potent way of reducing the damage that your team faces. Next one reduces armor by 30% for 2 rounds. I think, especially in the end game, armor break is reasonably easy available, so you don't really need to reduce the target's armor. It is alright if you don't have 100% armor break, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And then we have the speed reduction. Usually I would think this is good maybe in combination with ATD and DGN, but like in the current PvP meta, we see teams that have high invested heroes with a high soul power investment, and we are in this weird state at the moment where some people have single heroes with a lot of soul power, but not full teams, and in general, most endgame players have one hero with a bit of soul power. So we have one hero that spikes in speed, that has a high speed, and will likely not be harmed too much by reducing the speed by 20. So I think the attack reduction here is the best choice. Maybe in the future meta, 20 speed can make a difference again. Then we have the next one. This is by far the most interesting one. Additionally, burns the targets with Black Kindling or Black Kindling Ash, dealing 1200% of attack damage for 3 rounds. And we now see that we have the synergy with Black Kindling and Black Kindling Ash, which is a little bit strange. Black Kindling, of course, we get from the passive 2. On one enemy can be spread, as you saw before. Black Kindling Ash is only applied by her core at the beginning, or only applied by the core for now. Now we get in other sources with the Destiny transition, as you will see. At the beginning of each battle or at the end of each round, there's 100% chance to inflict Black Kindling Ash on one random enemy without Black Kindling for one round. So now we have a source of Black Kindling Ash here. The core itself has a pretty interesting effect. I have to note though, the translation of the English skill is quite weird, because if you actually read the last part of it, it hardly makes any sense. Increase the crit of this attack by 15% to burned enemies, so far so good. And then, or there's a 60% chance to restore the ally 10 energy to enemies with Black Kindling or Black Kindling Ash. The German text is an auto translation and basically translate to that there is a 60% chance to restore the attacking ally at 10 energy when he hits an enemy with Black Kindling or Black Kindling Ash, which makes much more sense. And then we have this last sentence: when any enemy with Black Kindling Ash dies, Black Kindling cannot be inflicted on other enemies. Is also probably a bit of a bad translation and refers to that Black Kindling Ash does not spread to other enemies like regular Black Kindling does. So that being kept in mind, we now have synergy with the core as well. If you use the core, you will initially have one hero on the battlefield more that will get burned by this, which is pretty nice. Next one is like a super solid choice if you just want some petrify, some extra CC. Deal extra 800% of attack damage to all enemies for one time with 30% chance to petrify each target for 2 rounds. It has to be tested though. What they mean by each target here, if this refers to the all enemies from this skill, or if this refers to the 3 random enemies from this skill. This is something that we can't test right now, and will be something that needs to be tested in the future, and I'm eager to see what it is. Last one, inflicts Black Kindling Ash on one enemy without Black Kindling or Black Kindling Ash for 3 rounds. And personally, I have to say, I am a fan of this one, because the thing is, well, we saw right now that we can activate our skills with Black Kindling Ash. The upside here is, of course, if we face a team where we can't easily get the kill on the lowest life enemy, we are really in a tough spot for spreading our Black Kindling to other enemies. And then now we here have the option to just use Black Kindling Ash as a substitute for that and put that on all of the enemies, because, well, especially with the Destiny Rank 6 ability, the upgraded transition skill, you will see that it becomes quite easy to trigger this skill multiple times around, and you will pretty swiftly inflict Black Kindling Ash on all of the enemies, and thereby making it possible for your BQA to trigger her skills off of basically any enemy's attack. So I think this one is the best. This one is kind of interesting though. I think if you run a really offensive team, I think it could be good, like maybe SFX Drake, something like that. And I think this could be interesting. This is just, in general, a pretty solid option. It's a pretty good skill, I think. And this one, I think, is the golden choice, the best one here. And it will be very interesting to see how that works out. For this slot, we don't really have a lot of good options. We have increased all allies' effect of being healed by 50%. Well, we have a good option. We have this one. Restore all allies' HP equal to 2000% of attack. And this one has me a bit confused. Not because of the skill itself. It is a good skill. Restore all allies' HP equal to 2000% of attack. That's a lot, by the way. We can trigger this twice around, basically. When we have do a single active skill, we gain 6 layers of transition power. The skill only requires 3. We can trigger it multiple times around. If we get the Destiny Rank skill, the Destiny Rank 6 version of the skill, we can trigger it 5 to 6 times around. So we get 5 to 6 heals of 2000% of attack from a priest. So she's a priest. She gets all of the effect of being healed stuff from Train and Guild Tech and so on. And then we see by comparison, and I have to do this now to Ferric Vesa, we see Ferric Vesa, her skill triggers from 12 layers of transition power, 4 times as much, restores only 800% of attack, and even the upgraded version, okay, given we get a shield, which is good, we get a shield, but also only 800% of attack. For the same amount of transition power, BQA restores 8000% of attack. So I really don't get where the balancing is here. But if you activate this middle option, you just have super solid heal. For some situations, it might be better to just have a lot of buffs on your allies. This might be advantageous in some modes. You will get a lot of effect of being healed, most certainly. So can be interesting if you just want to use a less potent healer, maybe. Though I think in most situations you will just go for this. For the same reason we saw the speed reduction before is probably not that great, unless, of course, you have a very fast BQA already. Then you can add another 100 speed, and maybe this is worth it. For the last one, the Destiny rank 6 skill, no scrolling here, so we can work with that. Changes the transition skill to when an ally's basic attack or active skill successfully hits a target. Was only active skill before. Now it's basic attack or active skill. By the way, fully expect this to be bugged. I fully expect this to be bugged, but we will see about that. Quite nice. Basic attack as well will give her a lot more consistency for PvP. And even if you don't have a full energy feed, you will get a lot of her skills activated every single turn, no matter what your hero really does. So that's pretty great. And we also have the change to if self has 3 or more layers of transition power. So no longer consumes 3 layers, but it only requires you to have 3 layers, which means we can trigger this a lot every single turn. Basically 5 to 6 times, depending. And that is something that also still needs to be tested and can't be tested right now. Depending on whether her own active skill or basic attack will also trigger it under those conditions. But for triggering it 5 to 6 times around, we saw the heal, triggering that 5 to 6 times around, or triggering the applying of Black Kindling Ash 5 to 6 times around, attack reduction, and so on. There are a lot of things that we will happily activate 5 to 6 times around here. And then we have the last part. If self has 15 or more layers of transition power, consumes those 15 layers to additionally inflict Scorching Curse for 6 rounds to whoever. We will have to see about that. If it's again the 3 random enemies they are referring to or somebody else. That remains to be tested, is not included in the text here. And Black Kindling Ash for 3 rounds, so we get another source of Black Kindling Ash for, here. Though 15 layers of transition power, I mean it's like 2.5 active skills, can take a little bit. Like on turn 3 that would activate in that sense. Which is decent. I mean, like, if you go for active skills and you have a full feed and you get 6 on turn 1, you get 12 on turn 2. So you have 12 on turn 2, and then you will have 18 on turn 3, which is kind of interesting because this consumes 15 layers of transition power, so you will still have 3 remaining to activate your transition power for the following attacks from your allies, which is pretty good. And then we have restores all allies HP equal to 2400% of attack for 3 rounds, which is just another kick in the back of Wraec Vessar, I have to say. And I think we got a pretty solid skill here. We got a lot of synergy with her base kit through this Black Kindling Ash, really. The age should fix her Cortex, though. And I think, like, compared to Wraec Vessar, I think Bloodtide Queen Aranea, I would probably rather use her as a heal, especially when I get attacked. In my CC team, I still probably have to use Wraec Vessar because, well, the enemy just doesn't really attack me, so yeah, that's a bit of a thing. But she has a lot of things that you actually gain when you get attacked from heroes with Black Kindling or Black Kindling Ash, if we take a look at that. When self takes damage dealt by basic attacks or active skills from enemies with Black Kindling and Black Kindling Ash, burns the 3 enemies with the lowest HP, dealing 500% of damage for 2 rounds. Nice, we get a source of burn. And meanwhile restores all allies 400% attack HP for 2 rounds and increases their all damage reduction by 5%. So we potentially get 30% all damage reduction for 3 rounds there. Every single turn, which is insane. Then we have the sublimations. Do we have something else here? There we have it. We inflict Scorching Curse through that. Basically, every single enemy that hits us will initiate the infliction of Scorching Curse here, which is absolutely insane. So we get some very great buffs from that. And the main part in that is, of course, Black Kindling Ash and new sources to inflict that, which is a great boost to her power. And I could really see her do some decent damage and also support her team in a very meaningful way. So in my opinion, Bloodtide Queen Aranea becomes a pretty good hero with that, and I would say she is on the upper end of those heroes. And I guess with the consideration that we can activate her transition skills so easily and so often, I think this really makes her one of the better heroes, if not one of the best heroes that we saw with transition skills. Not really the clearing type hero, though Teddy would probably argue differently on that. but like you get so many skills and so many effects that are activated every single round. Like just this damage can be quite insane. The dodge increase, attack reductions. Or armor reductions, if you inflict that 6 times a turn, absolutely great. So in that sense, we got a good hero here, and I'm eager to see the day when Quadzilla upgrades her to Destiny rank 6 and we can see some results of that. And I'm sure we will see more of her in the future. On Aika's channel, who just bought an SS Blood-Tide Queen Arania, or maybe even in IDA when Quadzilla continues to use her. So, with that being said, do you like Blood-Tide Queen Arania? Are you surprised that she's now one of the better heroes in the game? Well, at least if you have a very high investment in her. She's like kind of the hero where you need a lot of investment. Let me know in the comments down below. And with that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.